Another successful landing in the worn-out chair made out of fake leather in China. Yeah, planned obsolescence. Yeah, chairs designed to last you a couple years. Isn't it amazing we get greater technology now, but things don't last like a tenth as long as they used to when we had inferior technology? Like if you were to buy a modern can opener, it will literally fall apart in your hands within a few months usually. But you get one of those old can openers from the 1970s, unless it's completely rusted out, you could still restore it. You know, they're still working today and they'll continue to work until the end of time. Yeah? Isn't it ironic? I'm going to edit that out of this video. That's not important to the topic at hand. One of the couple ways anybody could insult me is either call me an agnostic or an atheist. Agnostic means ignorance. So if you say you're agnostic, you're basically calling yourself ignorant. And atheism has nothing to do with God one way or another. It's called metaphysical atheism. True atheism is called metaphysical atheism. This is a denial of the strings of the puppet, if you will. Yeah? In other words, there's no substrate or foundation underneath phenomena. That's what true atheism is. You could leave out God. The original definition of atheos in Philippians 29d had nothing to do with God one way or the other, the lack thereof. It had to do with the theurgic principles of subjectivity. Non-objective, pure subjectivity. Not subjective. Subjectivity is in the form of objective subject. This is me, this is the subject, the psychophysical corpus named Bob, Sue, or Larry. I'm talking about transcendental principles, metaphysical subjects that are underneath objective reality. And ironically enough, of course, that which we call reality is actually an unreality. The whole universe is actually holographic. Holography is a false paradigm of mass and magnitude, and mass and magnitude is due to magnetism only, and magnetism is a dielectric field. Yeah, it's interesting. Not interesting, it must necessitatively follow that the universe is like that from top to bottom, and yet people don't see that, i.e. the conjugate nature of the universe. But anyway, religions are built around fantasies and fairy tales, and I'm not going after any religion. I don't care what anybody believes. That's none of my business. Anybody that tries to convert anybody is themselves brainwashed and they're completely insecure. It's a type of mental defect, and it is very pervasive. Or somebody is not content, because if they were content, that means that that belief system would be fulfilling. Think about this. This is really important. If they were content, it means that belief system would be fulfilling. But they only feel contented if they could suck more people into it. Kind of like mass hysteria. The more people you can get around you that believes in the same thing, you know, the happier you are, because it itself is not fulfilling at all. You just need more people to believe it. Kind of like mass hysteria. You wouldn't get people knocking on your door. Hello! I won't mention the religions that knock on your door. They usually wear little badges, and they travel in pairs, is like one example. Like Frick and Frack showing up your door. Hello, we'd like to brainwash you into believing bada bing, bada boom, and show up. You can always donate some money, too. They're completely uncontent. They gotta suck you in, because the belief system has no means where at all to fulfill that person, because fulfillment doesn't require any external affirmation or support. Religion by definition is secularized metaphysics. But once again, I'm not interested in any religion, but every religion, if it's around long enough, will come up with a new version. You know, the Old Testament, now we need the New Testament. And then the New Testament, for example, would be like the Book of Mormon. So we have, Buddhism was nothing new. It was just a Neo-Saramanic movement of Vedantic, monistic metaphysics, the quickest methodology to transcendence, the elimination of rites and rituals that are found through the Rig Veda, Athura Veda, and Samaveda, the Gita, so on and so forth. However, the Gita came after original Buddhism, by the way, but is nothing new. But its followers, interestingly enough, they'll never admit to this, and they've never talked about this in any article. They feel completely unfulfilled if Buddhism, which it actually is, and by the way, the term Buddhism didn't exist until the 16th century. I'm just using Buddhism as an example here. That if it were something not unlike Advaita Vedanta or Upanishadic thought, i.e. the mystic metaphysics of theurgic liberation, i.e. the total fruit, total, so you want to edit that out of this video. That's what happens when you think about 10 things at once. The actual total fruit of the accumulation and perfection of wisdom, and of course wisdom is just a silly word to refer to self-subjectivity, self-assimilation, in other words, disobjectification. They feel completely unfulfilled and despondent that it would be in no way different, because nothing is known except in the modality of the knowers. And this is where Sophia Perennis comes in. You're not interested in religious belief systems and all the dogmas and the filth that's associated with all forms of belief and the radical adherence thereof. You're interested in truth for the sake of truth, wisdom for the sake of wisdom, and you can actually see that one thing is said several different ways by several different people. You're unable to unearth the thread that binds all these things together. Interestingly enough, the term sutra means thread. It's the thread of which the tapestry of wisdom is woven. So this is why I never touch religion, but people immediately infer, well, this means atheism or agnosticism, and it certainly does not. Buddhism is in absolutely no way any different than Upanishadic thought or the ultimate principle of yoga. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is no different than the Buddhist definition. And once again, Buddhism, the term didn't even exist until the 16th century. The only time in its pre-sectarian corpus, the Nikayas, Digha Nikaya, Majjhima, Samyutta, and Gottara Daku Nikaya, the only time pre-sectarian, I point out to you, where Gautama calls his teachings, and he calls them Brahmayana, path to the absolute. All those yellow-robed guys around Southeast Asia, those are Theravadins. They used to be called Sarasvatiyadins. Mahayanism, the Buddha Brahmasako Sutra, Lotus Sutra, yeah. Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, in other words. All this stuff is latter day. It's kind of like, there's the teachings of Christ, whatever anybody thinks about that one way or the other, I don't care. Catholicism, all that stuff came later. Protestantism, Baptist, on and on and on. The new version, yeah? There's our way and there's the highway. If you're not a Catholic, you're going to hell. That. Buddhism is no different than Christianity in that respect. The original teachings were not sectarian, and it was not a religion at all. It was a metaphysics and ontology of liberation from false identity, primordial agnosis, and transcendence from false identity. Objective self, which of course is namisata, not the soul. Can't say my soul, which implies possession of one thing by another. But everything today, and this is a quote from Dr. A.K. Kumaraswamy, a very accurate one, who's famously said, Buddhism is what's famous today for everything it originally never taught. I tell people, it's like, what is modern Buddhism relative to the original? I said, well, it's just like this. Imagine a branch of Christianity that rejects the Bible, never recommends reading it, never has read it, and doesn't believe in Jesus. You'd be like, what? What? That's crazy. Well, that's what you asked me to give you a near-perfect paradigm for Buddhism. It'd be like a Christian that rejects the Bible and doesn't believe or have any faith in Jesus. It's completely asinine, this notion of soullessness. And I don't care if you think this is egotistical or not, the world's foremost expert on the term anatta. I know every occurrence of it, every passage, all 22 compounds of it. Well, Buddhism taught anatta. Anatta is just the Pali word. In Sanskrit, the word is anatman, both the same word, Pali, Sanskrit. That's not in denial by anybody. Well, Buddhism taught anatta, or anatman, which means no soul. Buddhism is different than that Hindu stuff, which taught that there was a soul. Hindu refers to a people, not a religion. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. That's not my opinion. That's hardcore fact. Any Indian will tell you that. This is common neti via negativa apophatic methodology. in reference to subjective synthesis, or theurgy. Sorry, I'm still kind of recovering from the flu in my throat here. Not as in no way rejection of the soul, because the term anatman is used by Advaita Vedanta. It's even found in the principal Upanishads. If I say this is not the soul, and that's not the soul, and that's not the soul, am I denying the soul? Of course not. I'm simply saying this is not the soul. Isokaya namiswata. Most repeated phrase in ancient Pali. This body is not the soul. Rupa nata, Veda nata, Sankhara nata, Vinya nata. Nama rupa, psychophysical, are not the soul. Namiswata. Nama rupa anatate. Very, very, very simple. If I said this is not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not... If there were no soul, you would not even need to point out what was not the soul. You would say, is this the soul? And you would never do that. It would be the complete total waste of time, the magnum opus of the lost waste. You would never point out the 22 things that are said not to be soul. That's not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the soul. Now you say, no, there's no soul. What about that? No, no soul. What? No, no, no. Yeah, I'm not going to point out what's not the soul. There is no soul. Period. There is no such passage. Yet the entire crux of so-called Buddhism today, which is a religion. I'm not talking about the original metaphysics. Because I've been asked many, many times, why don't you like Buddhism? Why don't you like it? You're always attacking it, but you claim to be an expert on the topic. It's because the original has nothing to do with this religious belief system, which is not based in what it actually taught. It's just a religious, secularized metaphysics, i.e. dumbed down, for Joe Blow. A cult of pietism, really. Superficial ethics and morality. The word bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, which are translated as monk and nun, they don't mean monk and nun. It comes from the word bhakti, which means to give. Bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, translated as monk and nun. Those words don't mean monk and nun. This is where religion comes in. And it takes a giant dump on metaphysics, real metaphysics. So the word means devotee. A devotee gives of themselves, spiritually, something. A devotee, that's what the word means, devotee. It doesn't mean monk and nun, like this, Judeo-Christian religious stuff. Monk and nun. Oh, father and sister. Oh, brother. They wear the little white cloth around the neck, like a Catholic priest. There is no monk and nun. That words don't mean. It means a devotee. You're devoted to transcendence and the fruition of wisdom. What use is morality and ethics? These people were forest dwellers. They would take their begging bowl into town. They would beg for food once a day, sometimes twice. They would go back into the forest. They didn't want to be around society, which is corrupt and evil. What good is morality and ethics when you're wearing a robe sitting under the base of a tree and what the only person on earth, what good is ethics and morality? Who are you going to be ethical or moral to? This is religion. I do not confuse religion and metaphysics. I absolutely do not. I'm only using Buddhism, since I'm a foremost expert on the topic, to point out to you that all these religions are exactly the same, and I want nothing to do with them. And I don't care what anybody believes. It's certainly no skin off my nose or neck one way or another. I believe. And you never listen to the words after somebody says, I believe. Do you believe what I believe? It's like, yeah, you take that stuff somewhere else. This is where Sophia Perennis comes in. I don't know if you know what Sophia Perennis is. Yeah? Traditionalist schools, seeing the ultimate truth and substrate behind things. That it is true that Buddhists are actually offended, fundamentally offended, if you point out to them the fact that, and it is a fact, it's a hardcore, undeniable fact, that it was no different than Upanishadic and Vedic thought except for the ritualism that was removed. You need more expedient means. Neoplatonism is a BS term too. Neoplatonism is no different than Platonism, which is no different than Pythagoreanism. You only have the different modalities through which the truth is expressed. Some expedient, some less expedient, some a lot more expedient, like Plotinus. There's no such thing as Neoplatonism. There's no such thing as so-called Buddhism, a term that didn't even exist until the 16th century. Humans love to pigeonhole things. We got Buddhism over here. We got the Hindu stuff over here. We have Sanatana Dharma over here. No, 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 no. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Every Westerner and American thinks Hinduism is a religion, for example. And there's no such thing as a Hindu religion. That refers to a people. There is no text of Hinduism. Not the Vedas, not the Upanishads, not the Gita. Life is short. I mean, I personally want nothing to do with these things because they are not metaphysics. They are giant speed bumps and, you know, those spiky things they throw on the road the cops do to, like, pop your tires? What do they call those? Road spikes. They're speed bumps and road spikes to keep you from arriving to the truth and, you know, taking the little bit of time that you and I have to arrive at and go after the truth, rather than being involved in ritual and pomp and trash and filth. I want nothing to do with that stuff. It is not expedient. It's not helpful. A lot of people think it is helpful. It makes me feel better. Well, that's just a sense of community. That's like having a family. You know, when you hang out with your family during the holidays or whatever, your brothers and sisters, and a sense of communion and family. Of course it makes you feel better. It's a sense of belonging. But you don't need religion for that. There's a lot of ways you could get that. A lot of ways are a lot cheaper, too. But nobody talks about this in any video. They don't talk about Sophia Perennis. They don't talk about metaphysics versus religion. They don't talk about facts, logic, and wisdom versus belief systems. People don't talk about fulfillment. They talk about belonging and beliefs and faith. And people believe or do whatever they want. I don't care. Why would I care? Why? Why on earth should I care? I will debate people when it comes like, why Buddhism is a soul-denying. It's a soul-denying belief system based in ethics and morality. It's like, no, it's not. You know nothing about which you talk. Sure I do. My master taught me this. It's like, well, does your master think that he supersedes sutta, pre-sectarian corpus, i.e. the Nikayas? Of course he wouldn't. There's nobody on earth that's ever done that. It's like, excuse me, sir, do you think your lip-flapping commentary supersedes actual doctrine? Nobody on earth has ever said that. A lot of people have inferred it and implied it, but none have ever said that because they know it doesn't. It's like, well, let's stick to facts, logic, and wisdom. Let's talk about what it actually did teach, not the filth that it didn't teach. It didn't teach that there was no soul. It didn't teach about ethics, morality. I mean, it's an amoral, monistic metaphysics, a liberation ontology. That's exactly what it is. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. Well, my teacher taught me. Well, who cares what your teacher... Now you're talking about belief systems and religions. I thought we were talking about the original thing that everybody now calls Buddhism. For example, well, I don't care about that. Oh, you don't? Once again, I return to what I tell people, what's Buddhism? Buddhism is like Christianity, except you don't believe in the Bible, you never read it, you don't want to read it, you don't believe in Jesus. That's what, that's what a Buddhist is. And this is a belief system, not a liberation ontology of metaphysics. There's a huge nuance in there that nobody ever recognizes or talks about, yet it's incredibly important. Because life is short. And I'm not interested in fluff and trash. Never have been interested in fluff and trash. Nothing true is popular. Nothing popular is true. And you can take that saying, which is my own saying, thank you. Take that saying and put it in the bank. That is a timeless thing which will forever be true. Did you know the ancient Pali word for popular is the exact same word for profane? There's no distinction between the word for popular and profane. They are one thing and one word. And that should tell you everything you need to know. If you ever want to contact me, my email is below. Merry Christmas to you.